I long ago lost count of the number of interviews I've done over the course of my career, but I can tell you this. Never before had a response to an observation been as quick and as blunt as Jamie McMurray's feelings about his 4-year stint driving for Roush Racing in 2006, 7, 8, and 9.
You moved over to Roush Racing in 06, but it was evidently a little bit of a process.
Hated it. Yeah, absolutely hated it. Roush was just a, what's the right word? A horrible place to work.
The logical question is this: what happened? Financially, the 4 years Jamie spent with Roush Racing were the best of his career. He was set, basically, for the rest of his life. In essentially every other way, however, according to Jamie McMurray, those 4 years were a nightmare.
First off, it was a horrible work environment, just in the fact that I don't think anybody liked being there. Like, I just mean, like, everyone that worked there, it was just, the culture was so weird, and it started at the top. It was ruthless. And I remember the saying there was, there's 5 dogs and only 4 bones, and you better get in and get one or you're screwed. And I'm like, this is just horrible.
And the weekly competition meetings at Roush Racing, if things hadn't gone well the weekend before, there was nowhere to hide.
Jack would head up these meetings, and you would have to go around the room and talk about your race. And if it didn't go well, you would say, just the balance was too loose. And he would be like, well, Carl's track bar was higher than yours and he wasn't loose. And he'd like call you out in front of everybody. And I just remember, I'm like, well, yeah, but he's got 100 pounds more left for a sprint. You're just making me feel beneath myself, and you're not looking at the whole picture.
All this was a shock to Jamie's system. He had won for team owner Chip Ganassi in just the second start of his Winston Cup career. They had had a great relationship.
If you had a great weekend, he might call you on Monday, but probably not. But if you had a terrible weekend, he would call you that night, Sunday night, and he'd be like, hey, don't worry about it. We're going to fix it. We're going to get it better. We believe in you. So, something to that effect. And I remember I'd go to bed every Sunday night after I'd talk to him and be like, that's pretty cool that he called me and made me feel pretty good. It's not my fault, because whether it's the driver's fault or not, he controls more than anyone else, and he has to believe that he can do it. And if the owner beats him up and he loses confidence, he'll never perform. And Roush was the exact opposite.
So why did Jamie want to leave Chip Ganassi Racing in the first place? He thought the team needed better engines, better pit stops, and when other teams came calling, he listened. Maybe the grass was greener on the other side of the garage. The remaining year on his Ganassi contract was bought out, but only then did Jamie make his first visit to the shop of his new team, Roush Racing.
After it all gets signed, I went to Roush for we come home from Homestead, I go get my suit and my junk at Ganassi, and I remember driving straight to Roush, and I walked in, I start walking around, and it's all Kurt's cars, and I remember looking at the cars and thinking, wow, these aren't near as nice as where I just left. Like the craftsmanship, they were fast, they didn't look good, and they were dated, I thought. I mean, just the way they mounted pedals and just everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, Ganassi was way ahead. But yeah, the grass was greener. I'm like, man, they have it all because they're winning. But the reality was they had great drivers and they were able to put it all together. But it was a little disappointing when I got over there.
From the outside looking in, there would seem to have been at least some high points during Jamie's stay with the Roush organization. Daytona, summer of 2007. But the fact was, Jamie couldn't hop out of his car in victory lane and announce to the world that he was, for all intents and purposes, miserable.
I will tell you that every day at Roush was a struggle. Every meeting. And I can see it now on drivers' faces. When I interview them, or when I see them do interviews, when they talk, I know exactly how they feel. You maybe don't. but I do because I lived it. And I'm like, they say the right thing, but I can read their face and know they don't believe a word they're saying. It's serious. But that's what you do. You have to say the right thing. You can't say, I could never at the time have said, well, I think Roush is a terrible place to work. Like, I just don't like the culture. I don't like what's going on here.
Jamie ended up parting ways with Roush Racing at the end of the 2009 season. Being given his walking papers didn't seem to hurt the driver's feelings in the least.
Jeff Smith, who was the president of Roush Racing, I went to eat lunch with him. Remember, we drove back to Roush. We stayed in his car, and he's like, Jamie, because they were going from, if you remember, they were going from 5. NASCAR would only let, at the time, you could have 5 cars. 2010, you were only allowed to have 4 teams. Like they were, I don't know why that was, but that's what it was. He's like, we're going to cut down to 4 teams. And he's like, and I don't remember the exact circumstance. I mean, I think he sugarcoated, but the reality was I wasn't running good enough. And David Reagan was there at the time, and he was pretty fresh and new still. And I think they were like, we're going to take our chances with David and let Jamie go.
There's an old saying about time having a way of healing all wounds. But when it comes to Jamie McMurray and Roush Racing, that is not the case.
Mentally, like, oh my gosh, that was a horrible time. I still drive by that building and cringe. I hated it.
Really?
Yeah, it was horrible.
My name is Rick Houston, and I hope you've enjoyed this production from the Scene Vault. Be sure to subscribe and give the video a like.